Hi, I'm Libby.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is Awkward Olas. We are two friends living in southern Spain, figuring out life abroad and all of the amazing
And sometimes awkward.
moments that it comes with.
Like getting humbled when no one understands you.
Or finally finding that sense of community abroad.
How to get your whole life in a suitcase and then wondering where all this extra stuff came from.
Like, seriously, when and why did I buy this carpet?
Or even just the right time to say, hola.
Hola! Is it right?
That was perfect. Yeah, that was great.
Amazing.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Awkward Olas. Today, we are going to be talking about travel, and specifically travel in Spain. So as Libby and I have been living in Spain for multiple years, we have traveled to a lot of different places, and we want to share it with you. We want to tell you some of our favorite places, some of the tips that we have. So why do people come to Spain? Like, what is attractive of Spain?
I would say that most people probably come to Spain for the great weather, because Spain has this idea or stereotype that it's a super sunny place full of beaches, which honestly, if you were to come to southern Spain, I would say you should go to the beaches because they're gorgeous. Yeah. But I would say people come for the weather and for the party. Like, a lot of tourists come to Spain for the fiesta.
Yeah, right? Like, I took a pill in Ibiza.
Yeah,
which is an island of Spain. So yeah, absolutely. Spain being the second most visited country in the world after France, obviously attracts people from all over. And where do people usually think about when they think of visiting Spain apart from beaches?
Barcelona, I would say. Barcelona is one of the biggest destinations in Spain, and that's why they're known for having so many tourists.
Yes, and recently some frustration. The locals are frustrated with tourists.
Yeah,
right?
The locals would tell you. We're not the ones living in Barcelona, but for sure they're fed up.
Which I think could be true about any place, right? Like, if you lived in Paris near the Eiffel Tower, you might be fed up with tourists too.
It's a big part of Spain's economy, though. I mean, tourism is really huge for Spain. And so it's beautiful when you get to go and see these cities that are so gorgeous that people have been coming for centuries to see them. Like, if you go to Granada and people have been visiting the Alhambra from all over the world and writing all these stories about this beautiful monument from the Moors that came. But I mean, I think people come because of wonders like this.
If you were advising a first timer that was coming to Spain, where would you recommend them to go?
Oh, I don't know, Amanda. What would you recommend? Where would you say?
It depends on the type of travel that you like, right? But I think the first time that I came to Spain and studied abroad in Salamanca, I did a lot of the, like, I don't want to say basics because they're not basic. They're culturally rich and really interesting. And I personally really love Madrid. I feel like the Royal Palace is super interesting. You learn about the monarchy that still exists in Spain today. They have big museums that
I can't go into those types of places. I feel like it's so boring.
What?
Me personally, yeah, I can't. Like, I think like the ceilings and stuff are cool for the first 20 minutes, but then I'm like, can we go somewhere else?
So
I get claustrophobic in there. It's just like,
this is the beauty of this episode, because Libby and I have very different tastes and preferences.
Despite loving like Spain, we do enjoy our time here. I think we do enjoy really different pieces of the country and culture.
So you guys are gonna get this like taste of different varieties of Spain based on your interests, because Libby and I both have different interests. The last time that I went to the Royal Palace, the tour guide and I got into such a deep conversation that the rest of the tour left. She took me back through every single room and pointed out new things that she didn't show in the tour.
Seriously?
And I was there for like an extra hour with her. And I was like, I feel like I should pay you more. And she was like, no, I love this. And I was like, me too.
She's like, mostly my tours are full of people like Libby who hate this place. I don't hate the Royal Palace, just for the record. I just find it not as interesting as other places.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're a history buff and you're into culture, then like places like the Royal Palace, or you could even just stay in Madrid and there are so many things to do. And then something that I also like personally, which is usually a bit harder in terms of travel and logistics because you have to have a car, but is nature. And one thing that I did not know about Spain that kind of keeps me here is the numerous mountain ranges. In every corner of Spain, most of the corners of Spain, there are mountain ranges, and like within an hour of the city. So within an hour of Madrid, Barcelona, Granada,
That's
Jaén.
true. Yeah. I mean, you still need to have a car in most cases, but there's always something outdoorsy to do. Like, I remember I was living in the south on the coast just for like a summer. I was doing a work away and just started learning how to surf, like at the surf camp that was there. And then we were living up in this huge, like, cliff type thing. So anytime you wanted to go down the beach, you had to walk all the way down. And it just wasn't the other images that you get of Spain, of like just being on like a big sandy white beach or like being in a bustling city. Like, some of these places are not that far from each other.
No, not at all. So the variety is cool. I mean, Spain is smaller than Texas, which we Texans love to share. But just for you to imagine, like, you have so much geographical variety.
Spain is actually a really big country for Europe. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely, it's actually pretty big compared to other smaller countries. And that helps. It has such a huge range of geographical space, and so it has the mountain ranges that you're mentioning, Amanda. It also has different sets of islands in the Atlantic and in the Mediterranean.
Sand dunes, deserts, beaches.
Snowy mountains.
We got it all, baby.
Yeah, they got it all. So, I mean, there's anything. If you want to go skiing, if you want to learn surfing, there's so much you can do. Tarifa, for example, is a huge surfing spot in southern
kite
Spain.
surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. You sit out there and you can see, I want to say hundreds. For sure there are at least 100 kite surfers. So it's like this really white sand, really blue water and blue sky that almost merge together, and then just colorful sails all across. It's truly a sight to see. And also, who doesn't love like a beach vacation?
What about someone who wants to come to Spain? Like, now they know where like Spain is. They know it's big, but not as big as Texas. Where would you recommend that they fly into? Let's say if they want to do a vacation that's something like what you might be interested in, something more outdoorsy.
Great question. Basically, see where you want to go and then plan your flight into a near airport.
In the south, maybe Malaga is a good example. Malaga is really close to other cities like Sevilla, Granada, Córdoba. So you have a lot of options. But Madrid is going to be connected to everything. What about for planning that trip, though? Because we could have people who maybe are interested in traveling to Spain, but maybe they don't really speak that much Spanish, or maybe even their English is not up to par where they could feel confident going around. Like, what tips do you have for people doing that type of travel?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it's not only how good your English is, it also is how prevalent a language like English or your native language is in that country. So my first tip is to sign up for language classes on Preply. If you know far enough in advance, I feel like the coolest way to prepare yourself for that travel is to, I'm going to go to Spain. I want to go to Asturias. Let me get on Preply and look for a teacher from Asturias. So then maybe that person can teach me some expressions that I'll need while I'm there. And maybe they can also tell me about some of their culture, or tell me like, hey, you definitely need to try fabada. This is a traditional dish from my region when you come here.
Right. And so if any of you don't know what Preply is, it's like an online website.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, we'll plug in there. And it's basically where you can learn almost any language. So usually you can take, especially teachers who are native in that language.
Yeah.
And so you get that cultural aspect as well, which is something we love to talk about on this podcast. Like, the cultural aspect is huge, and that really gives you an appreciation for learning that language.
What would be your tip, Libby, for someone that wants to come to Spain and hasn't taken Spanish since 8th grade?
I think in addition to what you said about the languages, which is really important to show that you're actually trying a little bit, whether it's just like a simple, like, could I have this please? Or, you know, where is the bathroom? In this case, where is the library is not that important, as we've talked about in an episode prior.
Unless you like visiting libraries when traveling,
That
which
is
is really
super
common
important.
too.
Yes. But I would say, like, go in knowing that there's going to be misunderstandings, and you need to be patient. Things are not going to work the way that they work back home. And that's kind of the point of traveling, right?
That's why you're not at home.
Yeah. You're being bold enough to go somewhere where things are not going to be comfortable like they could be at home. And with that, I think have grace with yourself, have grace with other people around you, because there could be many moments where maybe the train does not come on time. And that's okay. It's part of the experience.
Traveling teaches you adaptability, which is a great skill for life in general. But I think it teaches you because you're forced to adapt because your train didn't come.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, now what do? I don't speak Spanish and I'm in this foreign country.
You're like,
Cool.
I'm abandoned at this stop forever.
Yes.
At this station.
Guess what? Adapt. Like,
Yeah.
and now that we have smartphones, I feel like it's not that big of an issue.
It's not, but I think beyond the smartphone, like learning to talk to people and
Yeah.
ask questions as best you can if there is any language space to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
Like this is also one of the best parts of traveling. I've seen it happen with my own mom that she started coming to Spain once she realized I was living here for a bit. I think she was like prepared to move with me. She was like, "Are we moving to Spain?" I was like, "I don't know, Mom. Don't worry, relax."
All of the moms. My mom feels this way as well.
For real. They're like, "You moving to a sunny place? I'll come."
I'm coming.
Yeah, but of course from Massachusetts, right? And I realized like it was such a stark difference between the first time she visited me and we, saw a couple different places, and then the second time she came, she was like, "I got this. Like I'm a seasoned traveler now. Like, don't worry. Like hold my beer type of moment." And I was like, "What's going on?"
Go,
Because
mama.
the first time she came, I was like, "I'm doing everything. I'm buying the bus tickets. I'm speaking in Spanish for both of us. I am figuring out everything."
Good
because
for her.
traveling can be hard even in your own country, right?
Absolutely.
Traveling in general is like you're going to be out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Add in not being from there, not knowing the rules, not knowing the norms, the language.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've brought us to a really important point. Solo traveling. So, like, I think a great tip is what you said. Like, the first time you go somewhere, go with a friend. And then once you feel like you have your bearings, maybe go by yourself and meet people because you're much more likely to meet other people when you're by yourself.
So true.
Than you're with a friend. So, Libby, would you say that Spain is safe for solo traveling? It's a good place to solo travel?
Safety is always the biggest concern when it comes to travel and especially solo travel. But I think Spain is very safe for as far as like the norm goes. The biggest danger typically here in Spain is like petty theft.
Pickpocketing.
Yeah, in the cities, right?
What is pickpocketing?
Pickpocket.
It means they're going to take your belongings out of your pocket. And the worst part is that genuinely you do not notice. Like you think, I would notice that someone takes my nice iPhone 16 out of my back pocket. No, you don't notice.
Well, in most cases, if you're lucky, you don't notice because there can also be other cases of more muggings. And this happens typically at night. But this is not Spain. This is many places.
Everywhere.
I don't know. I would say in general, Spain would be a good first country to practice solo traveling in because people are friendly. And so if loneliness is your bigger concern more than safety even, I would say that here it's easy to just chat with people because there's not only lots of Spanish people who can be chatty, but there's also a lot of foreigners. So you'll meet other travelers.
Yeah. And I think the nice thing about solo travel is that when you want to be alone, you can. And then when you want to meet other people, since Spain is so heavily visited, you're going to.
Yeah, it's true. But I think it's something you get better at with time, like being able to kind of put yourself out there and meet people, make conversations, whether they're actually going to become a friend or whether they're just your friend for that week at the hostel. Like either way, like it can be scary at first. So I think that it's a great skill and it's one that you can take back home with you as well. Going back to some of the things that might draw someone here to Spain, like they might want to be social or they might not. Like what are some of the things that you would recommend if someone isn't necessarily looking for the social vibe, but they're just looking for the natural scenery or something else?
I have a whole list. And so it's hard to choose like one or two. But obviously the biggest, most famous and popular option for nature in Spain is the Camino de Santiago or the Way of St. James. What is it? A pilgrimage, right?
Santiago translates to St. James in case you're curious about that.
So the pilgrimage initially was you going from wherever you live, your house, walking all the way to this city, Santiago de Compostela, where the remains of St. James are supposedly buried in this giant cathedral. So the last bit is urban, of course, when you made it to Santiago. They have many routes and you walk for however much time you have. And it's a really beautiful option for nature lovers. But also it's an individual journey, but also a very social one because a lot of people are doing it.
Really depends. Yeah, I like the idea of the Camino de Santiago because you can choose. Some people will go and like even like they could take an oath of silence because for much of the day you can be walking by yourself, just you and the dirt and the sun and maybe the cows.
For sure,
And then
cows.
you could also always be meeting up with the same group because you have the same walking speed. And in that situation, it's like you might actually make friends because you might be walking for a month, depending on where you started and which trail you're doing.
A lot of people plan the same amount of kilometers for each day because the closer you get to Santiago, the more established like the different stops are, right? So you see everyone day in and day out at dinner, at the two restaurants in the village that you're staying in.
Exactly.
The one albergue.
Which are kind of like hostile style, right?
Yeah, but worse. Like, like nowadays, when I look for a hostel, I'm like, it needs to have a curtain for privacy. The albergue, zero privacy. It's like a big room with 25 bunk beds, so you're sleeping with 50 people. A lot of people get up at like 5 a.m. to start walking.
Right, yeah.
Some people smell.
Some people snore.
Some
yeah.
people, a lot of
it
people
could be like a
snore.
hostel, but yeah, I mean they range. I'm sure, but they do usually have that fama or that fame.
Yeah,
and
but it's authentic.
It's authentic, and the food is good. Like I know in the north you eat really well, and so something we haven't even mentioned yet is you might come to Spain for the food.
For the food, yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite dish? And would it be the dish that you would recommend to any traveler that's coming to Spain?
First time travelers, I think almost anywhere in Spain, one thing you can try is the tortilla de patatas.
Yes.
So the Spanish omelet is how I think it's translated into English.
Yeah.
Because it's just basically like 3 ingredients. It depends who you ask, okay?
Yeah.
Depends. 3 or 4 basically main ingredients. A bunch of potatoes, enough oil to clean you out. I don't know.
Spanish
A
style.
lot of oil.
Yeah.
A lot of olive oil. And then eggs. And the big debate is always onion or no onion. And I'm definitely team onion, I gotta say.
I'm team onion too.
Yeah.
Here we're on the same team.
It's usually the only right team to be on.
But this is still a debate. Like in the grocery stores, when you buy a tortilla, they'll have like with or without onion. And this is like, I would say, as big as a debate as Real Madrid versus FC Barca.
One thing to keep in mind is that Spanish food is not Mexican food. In terms of spice,
Ew.
it ain't here. Spain has some flavor, but it does not have picante spice. It's not hot.
No.
Very
Very common misconception. I think when I studied abroad, people are like, oh, you're going to have the best tacos there. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
When I think of Spain, I think of simple foods, honestly. Like, I think that they do nice, simple foods. Nothing too fancy sometimes.
The tortilla can be nice because it can be dressed up. So sometimes it's in a sandwich. Sometimes it has a slice of cheese on top. Sometimes it has like a sardine on it. So I feel like
It has a little top hat on it.
there's tortilla for everyone, depending on what you like. And probably you will see many varieties of that in Madrid if you go to the Mercado de San Miguel.
Most cities will have like a big market too, where you can get like a pretty decent staple item, which is nice. No, what would you say is like one of your staple meals or the one you would recommend to someone coming to Spain?
Ooh, it definitely depends on the season. In the winter, I would recommend sopa de picadillo, which is like a chicken broth with boiled egg, usually ham, and then like bread. It's like if they put, what is that bread that we put on salads? Croutons. It's like if you put croutons in the soup, and so they get like super soft and like smushy.
Yeah.
So that's my winter option. And
Very comfort food.
Yes. And my summer option is salmorejo, which is a tomato soup that is cold. And it's like the cousin to gazpacho, which is very famous, and I personally don't like, but a lot of people do. And a cool cultural difference is that salmorejo you eat with a spoon, and gazpacho you drink it, even though they are both basically tomatoes.
I had a friend who was from Cordoba. I mean, he is from Cordoba, and he made us like a proper salmorejo, his family or whatever, and it was really good. One of my favorite things to do in the summer, if I really am actually on vacation and like going to the beach, is stopping at a chiringuito, which is like a seaside eatery, which we talked about in the first episode.
Yeah.
But there they have so many different types of fish, and depending on where you go, they might have like full octopuses, like on sticks,
Yeah,
being cooked like that. Like they do take seafood pretty seriously.
they do, and those are great. So another really cool aesthetic of the chiringuito is that usually the grill is in a little boat. So like the restaurant is either on the sand or off the sand, depending on the boardwalk, but then they have a grill, yeah, made out of a boat. So then you can see like an octopus on a stick, or in Malaga, it's the espetos, which is translated to
Oh, I don't know, but I know what the espeto is.
sardines.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A fish that I normally would not eat, but it's pretty delicious.
But you know what the thing is I always do when I travel? I'm always stopping at the bakeries. Like,
Ooh.
I know you, like I, love a good sweet.
This is one of the things that I always recommend to someone who's a friend when they're traveling to Spain or any country, is to look for baked goods, local baked goods, because I think that there's a lot of diversity in the options, and not even just like I'm in Andalusia or I'm in Granada, so what's the baked good from here, which is the pionono, by the way, but also the time of year. This diversity is really fun to check out.
Yeah. And kind of on that note too, I'm kind of feeling a little bit hungry.
Ooh, should we take a coffee break?
Yeah. Do you want to take a coffee merienda break?
Yeah, let's have some merienda, and we will be right back.
Now that we're back from our coffee, let's maybe switch topics, and we can talk about different places that are off the beaten track here in Spain.
Ooh.
There's many that come to mind, but what would be a place that you would think of to recommend?
Zaragoza, for sure.
Where is Zaragoza, Amanda?
Where is Zaragoza? Great question. It's in Aragon, the community of Aragon, which is in the north. So it's actually, I want to say, equidistant between Madrid and Barcelona, which is nice because if you want to go to either of those cities, or if you want to go to both, you could stop in Zaragoza in between and discover the beauty of Aragon. So they have I think it's a basilica, which is basically just a bigger church, I believe, of Pilar. So the legend is that the Virgin Mary appeared on a pillar and said some things to some people.
As she does.
As she does. And so this pillar is now inside the church. They built this like ginormous church around it. And so they have a little statue of the Virgin Mary on it that like they put a different skirt on her every day. So she's wearing these different clothes. And so the people actually look at the Virgin Mary thinking that's the relic, when actually the relic is the pillar that she's sitting on.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow. What?
Super.
How big is the pillar?
So it's not even that big. But it's also in this little like chapel. And you'll know she's in there because there are people admiring her, or the pillar, I guess.
Or her skirts
or
that
her
change
skirts.
every day.
Yeah, and they have this really famous thing too. So they have these little ribbons of different colors, and basically in the past they would put ribbons or cloth at the feet of Mary overnight for the cloth to like soak up Mary's blessing or goodness or something. Okay. And then when someone was ill or having a bad time, you would give this to them to like, I guess, transmit the goodness of Mary to someone else, or to give you good luck, basically.
Wow. Okay.
So now these ribbons, they sell them. So it's like a very common gift for you to give someone, since they come in so many colors and designs. One of them even has like the colors of the Spanish flag. So this is a great souvenir that has an interesting story.
A blessed souvenir.
A blessed souvenir.
That's really interesting.
To give someone.
Spain is a very Catholic country. So, I mean, we've already listed a couple different places that are, like, the Way of St. James is primarily like a religious pilgrimage. Many people do it with no religious affiliation at all.
Absolutely.
And that's, their own option. It's like you don't have to be religious to do it.
Yeah, it can also just be a spiritual journey or a
physical journey.
It is going to be a physical journey whether you're religious or not.
Whether you want it or not. But some people really go in and they make that like the main goal is like just to accomplish something physical.
Yeah. And also a mental journey as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think you have to be mentally prepared, or I don't know if you can be mentally prepared, but to keep pushing yourself.
But yeah, in that way, like that's a whole different other reason to maybe do tourism to Spain if you're interested in seeing churches, if you're interested in seeing basilicas. Like I personally am not a very strongly religious person, but there's no way that you can walk into certain churches, especially I'll name a big one, La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, which is incredible. And whether you're religious or not, you're going to be in awe because it's magnificent.
Yeah.
And I think it's a basilica, I believe.
Could be, yeah.
But it's by Gaudi, the architect.
Yeah.
And it's just insane. I mean, the building is huge. It's super colorful.
And it's not finished.
It's not finished, which is why you still have to pay for it, I think.
I went on a tour, and the tour guide told us that he got a review from someone, was like, yeah, the walking tour was great, but the guy took us to this unfinished church at the end. Like, not knowing that the Sagrada Familia, although it is unfinished, is a huge, like, I don't know if monument or, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you always know it's unfinished because there's these ginormous cranes sitting like on top of it. But it's a beautiful place. And so, you know, whether you're coming for the art or the religion, just keep in mind they're usually always mixed.
Yeah. Especially in a Catholic place. I was going to say Catholico.
Yeah.
Place like Spain. Mm-hmm. So I like what you kind of touched on there with art. So art is a big part of the culture in Spain, and especially the art of movement, which I know that you're particularly into.
And you as well. We both dance.
Would you like to tell us about the different art forms one can encounter and enjoy?
It's one that is already very well known, but flamenco is from Spain, and it is a dance that I love. I think that flamenco is super passionate. I think when I watch or when I listen to flamenco music, I feel super moved by what's happening on stage. You can almost always tell that like the artist, the dancer is super involved in whatever they're doing because, you know, they have their eyebrows scrunched or they feel the pain or feel the passion of the music. And to this day, I still cry in any flamenco show. Sometimes I go and I'm like, this time, I don't know, if it's not that good, like I probably won't cry. And then I feel it and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cry. So I love flamenco. I like to try and dance flamenco. I'm not very good, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Amanda, what's your weigh in on flamenco?
Okay, so the flamenco girl emoji is one of my favorite emojis, but
she stands for the emoji. Okay.
But I will say it's a very impressive spectacle. And one thing I enjoy it. I don't cry. Let's say that. So if you go to flamenco and you don't cry, don't worry.
You don't have to cry to like this.
It is very cultural and unique, and we had a friend here in Jaén that was taking flamenco guitar lessons, and apparently it's regarded as a very difficult music.
Oh my gosh, it's super complicated. If you ever need to be sure of how complicated it is, listen to Paco de Lucia. What is the song? The most famous song. There's something about aguas, I think.
But one thing that I didn't know, apart from it being a dance, is also a way of singing and a guitar. So it's usually a 3-part. But actually, Libby, I'm curious if you can tell our listeners, because in Sevilla or Granada, there are a lot of flamenco shows, especially in Sevilla. And I don't want to say that some of them are scammy, but like, how do we know how to pick the right flamenco show when we're in Sevilla or when we're gonna see flamenco?
This is a really tough question because there are many options, like you say. So usually you have a mix of like bigger places that will have a lot of tourists going to them. And I would recommend you to find a theater that's smaller. So a place where the show is going to be a bit more intimate and there's less seats is where I would usually say it's going to be better. Not the big glamorous theaters necessarily, but the smaller places, because the closer you are to the spectacle, the more strong it is.
Yeah.
Right? The more impactful. And this is also something that's really common in Granada is that they have, and also like as we mentioned before, flamenco also has Gitano or gypsy roots. And so in Granada, there are people of this descent and also just Spaniards who live in cuevas, caves. And that's where you can see some of the most impressive flamenco dancing, not just because, you know, you're out there with people who might be like more, you know, having grown up doing this dancing and singing, but because you're in that setting and there's like the reverb off of the walls, it's super cool.
I know a lot of shows you can have like a dinner and the show or just the show. What would you recommend?
I don't think you need the dinner. I think they're overselling it to you, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they're playing on you being a tourist.
Eat dinner where you want to eat dinner
You
and then
should eat
see
dinner where you
flamenco.
wanna eat dinner. Yeah, because
Yeah.
when you're watching flamenco, like, sure, you can have a little drink, but like, I don't think you should be eating. I think you should be watching and listening to the spectacle happening.
Yeah, it's not a studio movie, girl, okay? Just only go to flamenco.
This is Americans love when things are extra included. You're like, oh, a
2
drink
for
included.
1.
Yeah. So no. I think your better experience, your more authentic experience, which is what I always try to guide people towards, will be without the dinner.
Yeah, great. Okay, so a small show, no dinner, and probably even I would say no drink, just like fully soaking in the show.
I would suggest it, yeah. But it's not the only dance in all of Spain. Flamenco, is super popular, but you've traveled a lot in different parts of Spain that I've never been to. So what other types of dances are there out there?
Yeah, so one that really captivated me is called the Jota, and it's from Aragon. And even the dress that they're wearing, because in flamenco there's like also an outfit, right? A uniform, we could say, that like goes along with this dance. So in La Jota it's the same. They're wearing the traditional regional dress of Aragon, and I think it's usually a partner dance, but then I've seen it with like a big group, and they're turning all around each other, and there's like the traditional Jota, the same thing. You have musicians that are playing the traditional music that accompanies the dance. Mm-hmm. And it's really beautiful, and the best time to see these is in October, and so that's when you can see like for 2 weeks you can see the traditional dancing.
You can pretty much find a party going on in almost any month of Spain.
Yeah,
like I think in March is when they have the fallas, which is like when they burn giant like wooden dolls in Valencia, and it's really insane. Lots of partying, lots of dancing. And then also at the same time, there's Carnaval, which is happening in many places, but especially in Cádiz. It's huge in Cádiz.
Yeah,
it happens in the Canary Islands, which are off the coast of Africa, but a part of Spain. So there's always going to be something going on, like almost regardless of any month.
Absolutely. And if you're into nature, this is a great season now, the beginning of spring, for almendros, for almond trees, and then for cherry trees. And the blooms are incredibly beautiful. So there are lots of small towns that have festivals. I think that's one big thing that we can share is don't be bummed if you only have vacation days in October, because you're going to find something fun and cultural going on that you can join in on.
Yes. I would also say that in terms of visiting Spain, I would not necessarily recommend it in the peak of summer. It's going to be real hot, and it's the busiest season. So Spain, as we said, is like one of the busiest, most visited places for tourism. Off season of like, let's say October could be even better for that reason.
Absolutely. My Polish friend came to visit me last summer, and she was hot. She said it was the hottest that she's ever been in her life. And so actually she asked for us to talk about on this episode, what can you do to cool down? If you do come in peak season and you're hot, how can you cool down?
You do like the Spanish do, and you don't go outside until the sun is nearly down.
Yes.
That's not a lie. That happens here in the South.
That is actually where siestas originated from. And I learned this in my literature class in school, that like, it seems like to other cultures, like, wow, how lazy. Listen, if you come here, last summer, it was 115 degrees. Who is going to be walking around getting a gelato at 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 47 Celsius?
Yeah.
So what do people do? They take a nap, or they're just laying down on their couch with like minimal clothing on, trying to not die from overheating.
Some restaurants actually have like little sprinklers above in like the, where like the roof pulls out.
Yes.
And so you're sitting outside on the terrace in a mini mist shower while you're drinking your little beer and having your olives. And you're like, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Your food gets misted, but you don't care because you're so warm.
It's worth it.
So one huge thing, which you will see everywhere, and it also seems cultural, but then you get why, is the fan, the abanico.
Ah, the abanico. Yeah,
anywhere you go, you will be fanning yourself. So carry your own fan with you. And then my Spanish mother-in-law taught me that you should also always bring like a cover up for the sun, because the sun can be pretty intense.
Yeah, it's true. You
So
can get burned real quick.
so quick. So definitely if you're coming in a hot season, don't bring your fan. Buy a beautiful Spanish fan here and bring a little like thin cover up or like a linen shirt or something.
Yeah, all the sunscreen. Be safe. It's very hot.
We also wanted to ask AI, what is a common question or what are concerns or things that people want to know when they're coming to Spain? So we are now going to enter a rapid fire question session, courtesy of AI. Thank you, Claude. What's the best way to get around? Train, car, or buses?
Ooh, personally, I think buses and trains are the best way. But in some options, you might actually take a blah blah car. A blah blah car could be a good option for traveling within cities.
What's a blah blah car?
Blah blah car is basically car sharing. And it can be more comfortable if you're not big into buses because you just kind of throw your suitcase or whatever into that person's trunk. You meet them at a certain location. They drive you. Usually it's a bit quicker and you end up there for a smaller cost.
And better for the planet.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
All right. Let's see, Amanda. Do I need a visa to travel to Spain?
This is something that's very important to check, just like the weather, before you travel anywhere. As a United States American, currently, you do not need a visa to travel to Spain for less than 90 days. As soon as you enter, you're given a tourist visa that lasts you for 90 days. The EU is working on a visa waiver, which is actually what Europeans or maybe people from other countries that I'm not aware of, when Europeans travel to the United States, they have to have a visa waiver. So you fill out some things online, you pay some money, and then you're approved to come in.
It's pretty simple, but it's just a small fee away for the US to make money. So now Europe will be doing the same thing to the US, but they've been rolling that program back for a while, so we don't know when it will be valid.
So definitely check your government website wherever you're from and make sure that you can travel without a visa for the time that you're planning on coming. Ooh, Libby, what are the tipping customs in Spain?
You do not have to tip. In some really touristy places, and I mean really touristy places, they might expect it, but there's not really much culture to tip here.
If the food was really good, you leave them €1 or €2.
Yeah, you could.
And it's a nice gesture to be like, we really liked it or we had a really nice experience. But even if it was good and you had a nice experience on a day-to-day, Spanish people don't tip.
Yeah, usually your bill is your bill and that's all you pay.
Actually, when I first flew in, I was 19 years old, flew into Madrid and got a taxi, which usually, I think the last 10 years, it's been the same price. If you take a taxi from the airport to the city center, it's €30. And I tipped the taxi driver €5. And he must have been like, what a little idiot. And yes, I will take your money.
Well, that's the thing is like, it's a very touristy country. A lot of economics here run on tourism.
Absolutely.
They'll be like, perfect. I'll take it.
But yeah, don't tip €5 to your taxi driver or anyone.
That's a bit too much. Oh, this is a good one. What time do restaurants typically open for dinner?
Ooh, 8 p.m. But that is early. Like,
yeah.
Foreigners will show up at 8 p.m. and we will be the first ones there eating. An average Spanish person would get to the restaurant 9 to 9:30. And in the summer, when the sun goes down even later, sometimes dinner starts at like 10 or 10:30.
Yeah. And you don't want to be eating if it's super hot outside, to be honest. Like, it's kind of hard to eat.
Yeah, which is why they wait so long, right? Like, the sun has finally gone down at 9 p.m., so now we can go out for dinner.
For sure. It's so true.
Yeah, so this was one of Libby's tips before, is like, do as the locals do, so try to wait and have dinner for later because the ambiente, how do you say that? The environment will be cooler, better, like more people and just more vibing.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Ooh, I love this one. Thank you, Claude. Are there any common scams I should be aware of?
The one that I think about the most is in certain touristy areas, there may be people who try to offer you a sprig of rosemary, like a little piece of rosemary.
Yeah, just like a little.
And usually it's women, and it's supposed to be like something that looks like it's for free. And it's not really free. Because then, in some cases, they can start asking you for money. And depending on who you happen to run into, they might be a little bit aggressive.
And they're old ladies, so...
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to struggle with them and try to throw the rosemary back at them.
So, the main thing is just don't take it, obviously. Like, this seems obvious. If someone's giving you something, don't take it.
Yeah.
Then there's the like trick you signing something. So someone in front of you is either offering you something or asking you to sign a petition. And while they are occupying you, someone from behind you is trying to get into your backpack or your purse or pickpocket you. So anytime that someone comes up behind you, turn around or just be super aware or just try to keep moving, say no gracias or affirm no and keep going.
Oh, this is a common one, but are credit cards widely accepted or should I carry cash? And what is the local currency in Spain?
Oh, so the local currency is the euro. In general, yes, you're almost always able to pay with card.
But in many places, there's not a minimum.
No, I think safety-wise, I really try to avoid traveling with a lot of cash. So if you want to have cash, you can definitely take it out from an ATM, see if your bank back home has like a sister bank that you don't get fined, or get a credit card or a card that has no international transaction fees. But don't take out cash in the airport and don't carry too much cash at one time because you don't need it, because most places are going to take credit card. What do you think?
Most places take credit card. Not every single place takes Amex. That's the only thing to be aware of.
Yeah.
Amex is not always super common here in Europe because they charge big fees to the people that they work with. So to the companies that take them.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Otherwise, card is usually great.
Last question, and a pretty important one. What Spanish should I know? If it's only one or two phrases, what should I know to be able to say when I travel to Spain?
Oof, that's good. I mean, if you're traveling to Spain, you're going to be ordering in restaurants a lot. This is always going to be the case. So I would say you're never going to get in trouble for using por favor. Por favor is always very good.
Yeah, por favor, tortilla.
Sí.
Tortilla, por favor.
This also works.
Yeah, perfect. And then thank you.
Yeah.
How do you say thank you?
Gracias.
Gracias. Yeah.
And I would also say a very important one and obvious one would be hola. No?
Hola. Yeah.
Because people tend to greet a lot, especially when you walk into a store here. People don't just walk in and say nothing. Whether you start a conversation or not, you usually say hola.
Yeah. And I think if you pay attention when you go into the bakery, you'll notice that the people that come in after you will greet not only the panadero, the worker, but also everyone there just by saying hola, buenas. And then everyone responds, buenas. So it is
It's a sign of respect.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
So give it a try and then pay attention and see if you notice people doing it.
If you have any questions specifically about traveling here in Spain, we would love to hear them. We know a lot about living in Spain and traveling here in Spain, but we're always interested in learning more. So if you have anything you want to share with us, you're welcome to send it to our email. That's awkwardolas@gmail.com. That's in the show notes. Or just drop us a message on Instagram.
Thank you so much for listening. We are so happy to just talk about our experiences, share our tips with you. Obviously, numerous things to do. I mean, insane amount of places to see. So, of course, we can't cover them all.
The world is wide.
It is. And so is Spain.
And let us know if you have any tips of your own so that we can keep learning. We would love that.
Absolutely.
And until then, adios.
Hasta luego.
Chao, chao.
Nos vemos la próxima
Cuídate.
vez.